attempt in humor at all in what he said. And as a matter of fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix. This isn't cable. This is broadcast TV. And when you have broadcast TV, you have to, the airwaves are owned by the public.
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an editor.
Rob Schneider has jumped into the Jimmy Kimmel fiasco with a savage takedown, torching the left's late-night mascot over his ABC firing in a way no one saw coming. Many assumed that, as a fellow comic, Schneider would sympathize with Kimmel. But instead, he dropped verbal nukes that left jaws on the floor. This wasn't hand-holding. It was a full-blown comedic ambush, and the result is a takedown.
Joining me now to figure all this out is actor and comedian Rob Schneider. Rob, it's great to see you here today. Are you chilled? Are you in fear for the future of comedy and free speech?
Well, Will, first of all, I woke up this morning to the incredible shock that apparently TV shows are not guaranteed in our Constitution. I mean, wow. So that was tough to swallow.
Rob Schneider dropped the first nuke by roasting Jimmy Kimmel and the left with a brutal truth bomb. TV shows aren't written into the Constitution, no matter how loudly the woke mob screams. Free speech doesn't guarantee a cushy network paycheck. You can say whatever you want, but networks have every right to cut you loose if your words threaten their bottom line. Schneider doubled down with sharp sarcasm, mocking the outrage over Kimmel's dismissal and reminding everyone that the First Amendment only protects you from government censorship, not from your boss deciding you're bad for business. In other words, if you want to spew nonsense and keep your job, you'd better own the network, because until then, private businesses can and will decide who stays and who goes. And Rob made sure the woke crowd heard that loud and clear. With plenty more still left in the tank,
I'm still waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. And then I'm also waiting, I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, for the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through the government.
Rob raises another hard-hitting point by asking where the left's righteous fury was when Roseanne Barr was axed from ABC over her comments about Valerie Jarrett back then. It was silence. Crickets. Not a single tear shed by the same crowd, now clutching their pearls over Jimmy Kimmel. He isn't defending Roseanne's remarks, making it clear her comments were wrong, but he's exposing the glaring hypocrisy. If the left had no problem watching ABC torch one of its biggest sitcom stars for stepping out of line, why suddenly scream injustice when Kimmel faces the same fate? You can't cheer the firing of someone you dislike and then cry foul when the blade cuts closer to home. Rob's point is devastating in its simplicity. Standards should be consistent, because otherwise it's not about principles, it's about politics. And he made sure to remind the woke mob that hypocrisy is the ultimate.
Here is you have capitalist pressure. Capitalist pressure is really important, because what happens is you have to make money, or you have to do something of value so that you can get something in return. Now, the interesting thing is, it's false advertising, because honestly, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that, but the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said.
Rob reminded the woke crowd that Biden and Harris once pushed much harder through the government, pressuring social media platforms to censor speech. He pointed to the Twitter clash with Elon Musk, which ended with the world's richest man buying the platform, and to Meta's use of fact-checkers to flag or suppress so-called misinformation. Those mechanisms, built and championed by the left, set the very precedent they now complain about. Yet today, the same voices cry foul because one of their favorites is caught in the trap they themselves created. Rob isn't denying that misinformation can be harmful. He's simply demanding consistency. If you cheered on society policing content when political pressure came from your side, you can't act shocked when the same tools are turned against someone you like. As he put it, Hypocrisy is showing up in full force.
In fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix, this isn't cable, this is broadcast TV. And when you have broadcast TV, you have to, the airwaves are owned by the public. And to get that license, you have to be in the interest, like you said, of the public. And so that's why when there's a news van parked in the white zone, they don't get a ticket, because they are there to present news, to inform the public in the public interest. So what happens is 25% originally was supposed to be the news to inform it, just to get that license. So when you absolutely lie to the public, then you are no longer in the public interest, like Jimmy Kimmel did the other.
And this is exactly what the woke mob refuses to grasp. Jimmy Kimmel wasn't some poor victim of censorship. He misled the public on a major broadcast network. And when you play that game, there are consequences. No one forced him to comment. There was no gun to his head, no executive demanding he dive into controversy. Kimmel had every opportunity to either let it slide or at least fact-check before running his mouth on national television. But instead, he went for the cheap laugh and the partisan jab. In doing so, he gambled with his own career. And when you knowingly spread misinformation, you're not just joking, you're eroding trust in the very platform that pays you. That's not free speech under attack, that's accountability. And Rob's point is simple. Kimmel set himself up, and the fallout was entirely self-inflicted.
Dangerous. So with the FCC chairman, he didn't say that he was going to pull the license. He was going to give them a warning and ask for an apology, if what I understood on the Benny Johnson show. And so that's not the government doing it. And when 246 different stations around the country say we're no longer airing this, it's because they heard from their consumers. They heard from their customers. And they said, that's it. We're not doing it. And so Nexstar, who's a great guy over there, Sean Compton, said that's it. He's the CEO, and said when we have complaints like this and none of the channels, 200.
Rob then dismantled another convenient Litha idea that the government somehow orchestrated. Jimmy Kimmel's firing, calling that narrative pure fantasy. The reality, he explained, is that a BC made the call. Plain and simple. The network wasn't pleased with what Kimmel said on air and had every right to protect its brand. Rob even noted that the FCC wasn't planning to sanction ABC over the comments. At most, the commission would have asked for a simple apology and moved on. But ABC executives weren't looking for half measures. They saw Kimmel's remarks as distasteful, reckless, and damaging to their credibility. So they did what corporations do. They cut ties. It wasn't government censorship. It wasn't political persecution. It was a business decision. Rob's message couldn't have been clearer. Kimmel's downfall wasn't the result of some grand conspiracy. It was his own words, colliding with ABC's bottom line.
To say this in defense of people who can get absolutely entrapped into this political echo chamber. And that's what happened to, I mean, in my opinion, what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. I heard him talking on some podcast with another comedian, and it's easy to get trapped in your political echo chamber.
That is exactly what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. What began as a harmless jab at Trump and MAGA quickly snowballed into something bigger and far more toxic. At first, it was just easy laughs and cheap one-liners that played well with his audience. But before long, Kimmel wasn't telling jokes anymore. He was parroting the same lines you'd hear on cable news. He drifted deeper into the political echo chamber, surrounding himself only with voices that reinforced his own bias. And instead of using his platform to spark real conversation, he shut the door on debate entirely. There was no curiosity, no willingness to hear the other side, no balance. Kimmel stopped being a comedian who entertained everyone and became a partisan mouthpiece catering to one camp. And in the end, that's what doomed him. He traded humor for politics, and the audience noticed.
Absolutely right about you have to bring value to your employer. You also have to serve, as you pointed out with the FCC's regulation, the public interest. Now, no one denies that you or Jimmy Kimmel can have your opinion, but it's where you use that opinion and on what platform. And there was a time, Rob, when late night hosts seemed to understand that balance a little bit better. And I just wanted to, with you and our viewers, remember together, John.
Television hosts need to recognize the weight of their platform, because whatever they say or do on public networks isn't just casual banter, carries real influence. Their jokes, announcements, statements, and criticisms ripple far beyond the studio audience into millions of living rooms across the country. And with that reach comes responsibility. It's not about silencing humor or stripping away personality. It's about ensuring that commentary is rooted in truth and serves the broader public interest rather than a narrow political agenda. When hosts skew their monologues to appease one side of the aisle, they stop being entertainers and start acting like propagandists, and that's when trust erodes. A truly great TV host can criticize both sides when necessary, delivering laughs and insights without turning their stage into a campaign rally. Balance doesn't mean bland, it means fair, and in today's climate, fairness is the rarest yet most valuable trait of all.
Because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues. That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think...
Johnny Carson set the gold standard for late-night television, and his legacy is a reminder of what those shows were truly about: entertainment. Carson could touch on anything, even politics, and still keep it light, funny, and enjoyable for everyone, because he understood that people tuned in at the end of a long day to laugh, not to be lectured. Fast forward to today, and the landscape is unrecognizable. Almost every late-night talk show has turned into a political soapbox, more interested in pushing agendas than delivering genuine comedy. Their favorite punching bag is Donald Trump, and night after night, the monologues sound less like comedy routines and more like campaign speeches filled with predictable talking points. The result is that viewers aren't laughing anymore, they're rolling their eyes. Carson entertained America. Today's hosts divide it, and that's why the magic of late night now feels like
Agree with Johnny,
reaction there to
100%. Well, Johnny Carson was unique in the sense that you don't really know if he leaned left or right. Sometimes he leaned left, sometimes he leaned right, but he was there to get laughs, and he realized what people wanted to do. And I remember, like, as you know, when we were little kids climbing into our mom and daddy's bed when they let us stay up late on a Friday, and we'd watch Johnny Carson, we'd all laugh together because Johnny was there to entertain.
At the end of the day, Rob Schneider's takedown of Jimmy Kimmel wasn't just about one comedian losing a job, it was about exposing the double standards, hypocrisy, and decline of modern entertainment. Rob reminded the woke crowd that free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, especially on a public broadcast network. He called out the selective outrage, silence when Roseanne Barr was fired, but uproar when Kimmel faced the same treatment. He highlighted how the left once cheered government pressure on social media platforms to censor speech, only to cry foul when the trap they built snapped shut on one of their own. And looming in the background is Johnny Carson's legacy, a reminder of when late night made America laugh instead of divide. That's the real lesson in Kimmel's downfall. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.